you guys can hear me. Um, just to give a little bit of context to what we're going to be looking at, right? This is going to be conversational, so of course I want you to be able to raise your hand. Once you raise your hand, I'll give you the opportunity to ask your questions, and I can answer those questions immediately. Okay, I can answer those questions immediately. Okay, so here's the thing, right? We want to be able to understand how to use tools like ChatGPT, tools like Google Bard, um, which is currently called Gemini, right? And a bunch of other tools. We have a bunch of prompting tools out there, a bunch of language models. That's what they are called. I will try as much as possible not to use some of those terminologies that they use. On the internet, right? And I'll try as much as possible to break down the concepts of these things just to show you how you can go straight into solving the problems you have at hand, right? Especially around content creation, right? Yeah, especially around content creation. Before I share my screen, I have a material I already shared in the WhatsApp group. One of the major thing I have noticed that a lot of people battle with is understanding how to ask questions. I mean, this is not engineering, right? This is not really like science. It's understanding how to ask questions. When you are interacting with tools like ChatGPT or Google Bard, it's all about understanding how to ask questions the right way, based on what you are expecting, by the way, right? At the end of the day, it's based on what you are expecting because it's what you put into this tool. I'm going to call it a tool. Now, you might hear a lot of people call it language model, right? I'm going to be referring to these things as tools to make it easier for us, to follow up with the class, right? So when you put in a question into this tool, it is going to try to understand your question and then give you a response based on the question you put in. If your question is not very clear, most times the tools, right, would ask you maybe to clarify, right? It will tell you, okay, I don't have enough detail, I don't have enough context, right? Sometimes it won't, sometimes it will just go ahead and make things up and give you that response, right, based on its own understanding of your questions. So you want to try as much as possible, to make your questions, very, very detailed. All right. So that is that. Those are just like a few tips before I share my screen. We are going to look into so many things here, but I'll try as much as possible, to be fast with it, so we can just spend 1 hour on this call. The purpose of the material is to ensure that you guys can go over, that PDF probably later, right? Maybe tonight, tomorrow, whenever you are free, you can go through that PDF, and the recorded session will also be shared with you. Okay. Hold on a minute. Let me share my screen. Okay. I'm going to do this right now. I have to move some things to a different screen so it doesn't. Okay, let me just share the whole screen. Okay. All right. So I'm currently sharing the whole screen. I'll just have to close a couple of things like Spotify, uh, Draw.io. Okay. And my VS Code. I was actually doing some work. Yeah, so I think this is fine. Let me move this away so that if you have questions, I should be able to see them on a different screen without, yeah, okay. All right, so and let's expand this. So if you're watching from your phone, I think you can zoom in on your screen if you're using yeah, on Google Meet, I believe we can zoom in on our screens. Okay, so the first thing I have here, this material was specially created for, digital marketers, right? But if you are like, I know we have two software engineers on this call with me, right? Samuel and Emmanuel. So if you're looking at, or if you have plans to start creating content, for social media, for TikTok, for Instagram, I believe this will be very beneficial, right? Myself, I'm also trying to see how I can, create content mostly during weekends, right? Of course, this pattern, it works for me very well. I've used it for a lot of, crash course materials. The only issue I have at times is, being able to sit down and create a lot of materials that can cover, for the week. Because in the industry, in my industry, things change and we have new things coming up every week. So, the ability to go back and, create content might be difficult. But then I think you should be able to create time and plan, towards setting up content for your social platforms. Okay, so this is for the engineers on the call. Now, for the marketers, of course, this is going to be something you would use every single day, right? You can't pick up random ideas and just make sense out of it immediately. You need to be able to browse the internet. You need to be able to use Google search. But then being able to jump into a tool like ChatGPT or Gemini and asking some questions, right, and getting some valid response. Sometimes the response might not be very valid, so you should always verify. But I would say 80 to 90% of the time you know um, you would get to benefit from these tools. All right, you just have to be careful to make sure that if you are searching for response, if you are asking questions and you are expecting response that have to do with you know factual data, right? Facts. You should be able to do some research on those facts. At least you can ask the AI to give you vital links where you can verify those facts, or you can simply, use Google search to verify, those facts. All right. So what are prompts? I mean, these are straightforward. I want you to read up, some of these things here. So I said AI prompts are structured set of instructions and the contextual information provided to language models. All right. So I said I was not going to mention language models too much, but the idea is we call them models because they are put together, right? They are basically built and put together with a lot of data, with a lot of data points. They were trained with a lot of data points, and what you have to do is to simply come in here, ask that question. When you ask that question, it sends that question, to that model, and it tries to do all the computation to give you the feedback. Now, that is not necessary for us here. We don't need to know how it works. That's not our concern, right? But the idea is the prompts you are writing are structured set of instructions. It has to be well structured, and I came up with a framework that I will share with us. That makes it very easy to pass those kind of instructions to the tool, right? To the tool that we are going to be using today. All right, so this prompts guides the models in performing specific tasks effectively, and this practice is known as prompt engineering. When we apply this to digital marketing, it is known as prompt engineering in digital marketing. All right, so let's just talk about the importance here. Okay, so developing and refining prompts, of course, this is very critical, right? It's a very critical skill, and it is something that you'd find beneficial, especially if you're a creator, right? If you're a researcher. But I think most of us on this call, we are creators, or we are potential creators. We want to create content and put it out there, for a specific purpose, right? So yeah, let's just jump straight into designing prompts for different digital marketing tasks. Now, what I did here is to put out some of the use cases, right? We're going to have more detailed use cases. I mean, we have a lot of pages to cover, right? But, most times you're going to find yourself do things like content summarization, where you probably see a lot of content on the internet. So I'm going to bring, let's pull out ChatGPT here, so we can be experimenting while I'm giving these examples. Okay, so I have ChatGPT 4, but I'm going to move to 3.5 because most of us should have, everybody should have 3.5. Okay, so content summarization. Now you see, you come across a blog post. Okay, so let me just open a new tab. So you see I have, like, articles right here on my screen. So everything you need to know about ML ops. Now these are basically engineering related, but I think I can see, I'll probably see something we can, let's just pick something from here. Let's take this one. Okay. So this is a blog post, right? One thing you should also understand is ChatGPT would only accept a certain number of characters, right? It's a lot, but I mean, if you try to copy like an entire book, that will not work. Okay, so blog posts would definitely work, right? Especially blog posts that are not written as series of books. Okay, so I just have to copy the whole thing from that web page. If you notice what I did here, I just did Control A, right? It's going to copy a lot of things, even probably things I don't need, right? No problem. The main context still, would enter. Okay, so I'll pick that, put it into the tool, and I would simply say, summarize this. Okay. So now this is a very simple way to say I want to summarize this. But now let's look at the example. Summarize the blog post titled this, right, into a concise paragraph highlighting key strategies and insights. Now, why would you want to probably add the title? Now, this is not compulsory, right? The AI is smart enough to understand what you're asking it to summarize. But one thing you should also understand is we have a lot of things here, which means it might as well summarize some of the response, maybe some of the comments. Okay. So when you are more specific, right, it will just go straight into summarizing the major contents that you have here. All right. So we can just, say summarize the blog post titled this into a concise. Now, this is the expectation. There's a part we'll get to where I would explain the major parts of your prompt, right? But you see, if we are asking the tool to say, we want you to summarize this into a concise paragraph, highlighting key strategies and insights. Now, if you did not include this part, it would also do the summary, right? It will definitely give you a summary, but without context on what you expect to see, right? So if you know there's a particular pattern, you are given a task, for example, let's assume Amaka gives me a task here. Amaka say, okay, Marv, I want you to look at this blog post and bring out, the key strategies and insights, right, from this particular blog post. Or I want you to look at this blog post and tell me, the most important part of this blog post, or tell me the specific part that speaks to what we are looking for, right? In that case, you probably want to first pick the blog post, then you want to maybe pick another blog post and compare, right? So if you're doing that kind of comparison, we would also look at something like that. But if you're doing that kind of comparison, you probably paste the first one and you say this is okay. You can say I want to perform comparison, right? Comparison on two blog posts. Okay. So you paste in the first blog post, and then you can say this is the second blog post, and then you go in here and you paste in the second blog post. So I have dropped like two blog posts here, basically the same thing, right? The same thing, and then I can go to the bottom again. Okay, let me scroll down. So I can go to the bottom again, and I can say summarize this. All right. Remember, you have to change. So whenever I paste, because it's very long, I have to go back and scroll again. So you have to change the title, right? Whenever you do this, you have to change the title, and we can simply, grab the title from here. Okay. So just to give you an idea on what you can do, especially when you are copying and pasting, you can actually do this outside. We're going to mention some tools, right, that we'll be using. You can actually do this outside, which is what I always recommend. Okay, so write this outside, paste the first blog post. I said I want to perform comparison. Let me zoom in. Let us zoom in on this. Okay. All right. So I said I want to perform comparison on two blog posts. Pasted the first one. I also added the second blog post, and then towards the end here, I said summarize the blog post titled blah blah blah. Okay, so I can simply copy this now into the AI tool and expect that feedback. Um, so it will go ahead and give us the feedback from the comparison. It says the blog post titled blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. Outlines the upcoming features and improvement of the next major updates to Ubuntu-based desktop. Blah blah blah. Okay, so you see, it gives us. So it said additionally, plans involved implementing responsive design patterns. So let's forget about this whole thing. It doesn't concern us. But now you see, you are able to get that paragraph, that concise paragraph that points out the major thing. If you did not ask it to give you one paragraph, trust me, you'll probably be seeing like three different paragraphs, and it would even try to give you some details that you probably don't care about. Okay, so it's very good that you are being specific as to your expectations. All right, now let's go back to that material. Let's move fast. So that was an example. These are some things you can do with prompting. Content summarization, right? We also did content comparison and summarization right now. Customer query response. So, for example, you have a message from a customer, maybe in your Instagram DM or even in the comment section, and you want to respond to that customer, but you probably just want to make it sound professional, right? So that you don't end up you want to sound very professional. Maybe you have not done that before, right? So you might get the customer message that says, okay, what are the delivery options for your product, right? And now you are asking ChatGPT, for example, because that is the primary tool we're looking at here. It can be bad, but I mean, it's fine. So this is the question. What are the delivery options for your products, right? And then you're asking ChatGPT to respond to the customer inquiry. What are the blah, blah, blah? Provide a clear and informative answer. Now, this is a very simple use case. As I mentioned earlier, we would get to the point where you can dive into making your prompts more detailed, right? If I should send this message right now, it goes ahead to say, okay, certainly we offer several delivery options for our products to ensure blah, blah, blah. Our standard delivery options typically takes this, right, to arrive at this. Additionally, we also provide expedited shipping for those who require, this is a very professional response. But then you can proceed to say, you add some persona. We'll get to, cover that in detail as well, but we can say, I am a fashion uh, business owner. Okay. So I'm adding some context, right? I'm a fashion business owner so that ChatGPT would understand, what I'm actually doing, the kind of business I am into. And of course, it will also understand the kind of product we're referring to here. Okay. So I can say respond to our Instagram customer inquiry because the way you probably respond to people on Instagram might be different from the way you respond on LinkedIn. Of course, they are all customers, but now we're looking at different audience here. Okay. Yeah. So that is why I'm being specific. Okay. So depending on what you're trying to do, it is always better when you are more specific as to the prompts you put into ChatGPT. You understand? So you can say, okay, respond to our Instagram customer inquiry. What are the delivery options for your product? Provide a clear and informative answer. And you can say, ensure to sound professional and keep the conversation fun or interesting, right? Yes, you want to sound professional, but you don't want to make it look like a formal letter, okay? And keep the conversation interesting, okay? So I have some prompts. I always put some example prompts here. All right. So you see, hello and thank you for reaching out. We offer a range of delivery options to ensure your shopping experience is as convenient as possible. For domestic orders, we provide standard shipping with an estimated delivery time. You see, the response has changed, right? It's different from what we got earlier. Okay. All right. So yes, I mean, it's still giving, those two options. If you have if you already have like your shipping, rates and, should I say plans, right? You have your shipping plans already as a business. Maybe you have standard shipping, you have, fast, maybe you call it express shipping. You can as well go ahead and even add those details. You can say, this is our shipping, plans, right? Or these are our shipping plans. So you can say we have, standard. So you put in the details of the standard, right? You say we have, so you can add those details, but let's not, go into that. But you get the point, right? If you have more details you can put in here, put that, right? Structure it very well, and then it will definitely work with the information you give. So the information you give to ChatGPT, it will try as much as possible to work with that information, right? Yeah, so to try as much as possible to work with that information. Of course, this is wrong. You don't want to include this. So this is what I was talking about, right? Hashtags, this is not a post, right? This is a response, okay, to a chat, right? And you can also go ahead and, summarize this, okay? Or you can say, make the response shorter, right? Because in your Instagram DM, you probably don't want to write all this plenty grammar. Now, there are some parts that are important, right? Hello and thank you for reaching out. This makes sense. Okay. Now we offer this down to this part. This makes sense. But I believe this person, depending on the stage of that conversation, already know all this. Okay. Now I'm saying it depends. The person already know this, but you can just pick the most important part from here So when you ask it to summarize, it makes it shorter, right? You can also specify, okay, you can say in 200 words, right? Or in 2 sentences, okay? Summarize the previous response. Okay, so it would also, make it so it will make it shorter. We offer both domestic and international delivery options, including standard and expedited shipping. Right, all shipments are carefully tracked, and I mean this makes sense. Okay, so try as much as possible to remember. I mean, you have this material. Summarization is right here. Responding to customer inquiries, sentiment analysis. So just try to understand what this is. Okay, the point is you are trying to use this for cases of reviews, right? To analyze customers' reviews, customers' feedback, and try to know if it's positive or negative or neutral. On social media, you get a lot of response, to your comments. Maybe there's something you don't quite understand from the grammar, right? There's some customers that might respond to something and you're finding it difficult to know if they really like it or they're having issues. I mean, you can definitely use ChatGPT to perform what we call sentiment analysis. Okay, for brand personal development. So this is something I've explained to a lot of people because they have a brand. For example, they have a product and they're trying to really understand. I want to target a set of audience, and I want to promote this product, but I really want to understand how people would feel. Now, of course, ChatGPT is not your customer; it is not a human, but it has a lot of data that it can basically use a lot of data on the internet to make to come up with interesting conversations, right? Um, Now, you don't necessarily need to trust the conversations 100%, but then you can actually use these prompting patterns here. To keep asking, questions and trying to dive into details of the responses that you get. I'm going to show you 2 things you can do under brand personal development, right? The first thing would be to create a dialogue. Now, this one is easy, right? The example I put here is easy. You see, we will see a better example in the bonus session. We have a bonus session with a more detailed example. Let me just put this in here and you see it has created a conversation um, discussing the benefits of a new loyalty program. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we did not give it any detail of our loyalty program, but it went ahead to even create a conversation, without the information from your own loyalty program. So if you have your own loyalty program, yes, you can first, include that. Probably copy the entire detail of your web page that describes your loyalty program. Then you ask it to create that dialogue. Now, this is a simple dialogue you're seeing here. I'll show you how to make this more interesting, right? But apart from that, you can also include one thing. That's why I said I was going to show you 2 patterns. You can also include something that says, ask me, vital questions about the program, about the loyalty program. If you don't have enough context, let's take this step by step. Okay. So the reason why I'm adding this right now is because I want a situation where it will be able to ask some vital questions. So take a look at this. Oh, hi. No, I haven't. What is it all about? Right now, that sounds fantastic. How do I join? Right, that's great. Yeah, this blah blah blah. Okay, so wow, count me in. Is there a membership fee? So now you're seeing we're getting mostly questions because the fact is customers are going to throw so many questions at you, especially when you are you know probably coming up with content like this. Now, this can also be beneficial to your flyers or your marketing content, right? Whether you are promoting via email or something. Yeah, you can include this in your FAQs, right? These are potential questions that your audience will ask you, right? And you can even request for more. You can say continue this conversation, right? And it would go ahead and even ask more, potential questions that you might also get. Okay. Um, there's a better way. There's a better way to actually do this, and we'll be looking at it in the future. But this is also very good, right? It's always good to start small like this. You don't want to overload the prompt if you don't really know how to manage it, right? So it's a good idea to start like this. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll get to a different parts. There are some, there's some other parts where I would show you how you can also extend this, and you can ask ChatGPT to ask you those vital questions, right? So we'll get to that part. Okay, let's move on. So we have a content recommendation, right? So depending on what you're trying to achieve here, always look at this, and I will get to the part where I show you the vital parts of your prompt. So now this is an example prompt. Recommend relevant blog topics for our target audience interested in digital marketing. Now, for our target audience interested in digital marketing, please note this, okay? It also says consider trending keywords and industry insights. Now, remember that ChatGPT 3.5 is not working with real-time information from the internet. Of course, it has a lot of information, but it's not real-time. Okay, so sometimes there are some questions like this that you probably prefer to go with Gemini or Bard, right? Whatever you call it. Okay, some questions like this you probably prefer to go with Gemini because I mean they own Google search. So yeah, but let's just continue from here. So I'm saying recommend relevant blog posts for target audience interested in digital marketing. I can also include especially email marketing, which is of course a subset of digital marketing. Let's go. Okay. All right, so here are some recommended blog posts, blog topics tailored to your target audience interested in digital marketing with focus on email marketing. So mastering personalization, power of automation, right? So now it is recommending. Now, if you look at this, it gave us eight, items. We did not specify. So being able to specify is also very nice. Okay, so recommend 5 relevant blog posts or blog topics, right? So it will go ahead and recommend 5. Okay. So now you see we have 5, right? You can also say recommend 5 relevant blog topics with a bit of descriptions in bullets, right? Or in bullet points. Okay, so it makes sense if you really want to get some details about the topic that it's recommending. So it will tell you, okay, we're going to explore the importance of personalized email content, because when you are writing content, right, it's a good idea to to be specific, or to make your audience understand what they will be learning at the end of the day. So these are like the objectives, right, or the expectation. So at the end of the day, we're going to explore this, and you should be able to understand this, right? You can as well go ahead and include the objective and the expectation. So by the time it gives you a topic, it tells you what the objective might be, right, for that particular blog topic, and then the expectation of the readers or the audience. Okay, so being specific to those details that you expect to see is a great idea. All right. Okay, so we have a performance evaluation. All right, so you can use a prompt like this: evaluate the effectiveness of our recent email marketing campaign promoting the summer sale and provide. So now, when you're trying to perform evaluation, it means you need some additional data, right? So you don't just throw this in because it has no idea about your previous campaign, right? But it will definitely give you an answer. Okay. So what it's giving us is that it's telling us some of the key things to actually check, like the open rates, the click-through rates, the conversion rates. But yeah, if you actually wanted to give you an evaluation of an actual campaign, then you have to send in some data, which would mostly be the reports from that particular campaign. Okay, send in that report, it breaks it down and tells you, okay, what you can do better next time. All right, so you can also include if you actually have that data, so you can put the data here if you actually have that data, and then you can say, break it down and suggest or recommend things we can do to make the next campaign much better. Okay, now we don't have any data for now, right? But yeah, we can actually go to Gemini. Okay, we can go to Gemini to probably generate data, right? So sometimes you can actually, if you don't know what that data should look like, most times that's the problem we have. we don't even know what that data should look like, right? So we can say generate a sample um, campaign reports. Okay, so as a digital marketer, generate a sample Facebook campaign reports that I can present to my boss. Okay, so you can just use a prompt like that, to get a sample, right? So that you can also, yeah, you see, we're getting that sample, target audience, the budget, the reach, blah, blah, blah. One thing about Gemini is that it will break it down and explain, but it won't give you, a sample data, right? ChatGPT will probably give you sample data and put in some numbers, okay? So this guy is just telling us what to include there. I mean, which is good, but sometimes you actually want the opposite, right? So this is good, but of course, this does not really contain any actual data. So what I can do is I can actually generate that data. I can say, so I just added this to, ChatGPT, and I would say using these templates, generate a report with an actual sample data, okay? Because, I mean, ChatGPT would most likely give you, the actual data. You see what I just said, right? ChatGPT will give you an actual data. Okay, so now that you've gotten that data, we can come back to our previous prompts, right? Okay, so now we can ask it to evaluate. Let's copy that. We already have the data in here, although it has even given us additional tips and next steps. So we can paste this now and say evaluate the effectiveness of our previous marketing campaign. Okay. Yeah. So we can actually ask it to now evaluate from the previous one, right? So you see, it is giving us that evaluation, the analysis. The open rate indicates that the percentage of the recipients who opened the email, right? So a low open rate may suggest blah, blah, blah. Okay, so probably we can even just, copy this data, right? And include it into, yeah. So we can just paste the whole thing in there and submit. All right. Okay. I think some details were not provided, but now you see we have the click-through rate. The campaign achieved a CTR, which is slightly below industry benchmark, right? So it's giving us recommendation, optimize the subject line, enhance email content, segmentation and personalization, perform A/B testing, right? So this is what I'm talking about, right? We have taken too much time talking about this alone. This is page 2. We have like how many pages here? Okay. So please do well to read this, and this session is recorded, so I believe you will get more you benefit more from the content when you go back to this video. So components of a great prompt, right? As I mentioned earlier, some people don't even know how to ask questions, so that's a problem. So looking at this right now, when we're crafting prompts for digital marketing tasks, it is actually essential to incorporate the following components. Now, not just digital marketing, of course. I am making this, work specifically for the purpose of this session, but it is beyond this, right? It is beyond digital marketing. Whenever you are asking any questions, even in a real life scenario, right? This is, I mean, I got this information, from what's it called? From English studies, from a book, right? That was, more about grammar and, learning how to ask questions, right? So when you're asking a question or you're trying to pass an instruction, yes, you want to put in that clear instruction, right? The guide, and then you probably want to provide context, especially if you are not, or if the person you're asking that question might not understand what you are referring to. This is the way I think, right? There's a course that will be coming up very soon called systems thinking, and you would actually learn to, ask questions properly as well from that course. Now, I am asking you a question, Mr. Pascal, and you probably have experienced 3 different scenarios, that might make my question sound confusing. When I ask that question, the first thing you'll probably ask me is, wait, Omar, are you referring to what happened yesterday, or you're referring to what happened last week? Now you see there's a confusion there, automatically breaking the flow of my question. Well, if I come to you and I say, oh, Mr. Pascal, remember the engagement from last week, yeah, where we discussed probably where we met at Ikeja and we had a conversation, okay? So and so person brought, the feedback, which is the input data, right? The person brought the feedback, and this is what the person is talking about right now. Okay, what do you think we should do, with that feedback? Okay, and the person is actually expecting this, via WhatsApp text or via SMS. So can you please respond? Now it makes sense that I came with the context. Okay, I also passed that instruction. I told you what the person brought to us, right? The feedback or the input from the person and what the person is expecting. I gave you every single detail in that question, right? So now it makes sense. You will not come back to me and say, "Where to Marvel? How are we going to send it to this person?" Right? Or what exactly the person bring? Have you checked it? Have you reviewed it? I mentioned that already. Okay. Or Marv, are you referring to what happened last week or 2 weeks ago? I gave you that detail already. Okay. And I also passed the instruction. So imagine sending a prompt to an AI with all the information, right? That is required, at least detailed. Okay. So these are some examples here. By the way, we can just go through this. The instruction is the clear guidance on the specific task to be completed. Context refers to the background information or details relevant to the task. The input data refers to the data or the contents that the model will analyze or work with. I mean, some of these are optional. Of course, the instruction is necessary, is important. The context is also optional, but it's very good if you have context. Input data is not necessary depending on the kind of question you are asking, and the output data is also not necessary if you probably want to expect anything from the AI, right? Output indicator makes sense because now you are telling the AI, this is how I want you to give me the response. So if I come back to this, for example, and I say, um, uh, give me five definitions of digital marketing from different experts in the industry. All right, so if I just throw this in here, you see it's giving me from Neil Patel, from a bunch of amazing guys out there, right? Five of them. Seth Godin. I've been trying to remember this name for the past 3 days, I guess. Seth Godin. Okay. So give me five definition. Now let's go ahead and include the output indicator. I would say respond uh, with a structured uh, tabular representation. Okay, you can be more specific, you can be more detailed. But now, when I say give me a tabular representation, it gives me a tabular representation. That is how I want it to respond, right? So that is the output indicator, criteria or format outlining the desired output. All right, let's just continue. We'll get to use this. Yeah, I mean, I added some examples, tailored to digital marketing scenarios, of course. Content generation, for example. Okay, Amaka says, Mav, I want you to, come up with, content, right? That is focused on the benefit of, so let's say the benefit of AI prompting for digital marketing. All right. So that's what Amaka gave me as a task, and I need to work on this, right? I want to tell you something. Don't try to ever think that, oh, using AI means you are cheating. You're not cheating, right? If you're not using AI, you would have gone to Google, right? And you would have done Google search. And you would have also copied things from Google. So, I mean, it's the same thing. The only difference here is that this is making your work faster. But then this can also give you errors. So, which is why I said you also need to verify, right? You need to validate the data you get. But this makes your work faster. And it also makes you think even smarter because you begin to see some things that you probably did not realize you might need, and then you ask questions based on those things to get more detail, so that by the time you come back to present your reports or the output with a marker, make sure you read. I mean, don't just get something from AI and send it to me or send it to anybody. Make sure you read, you make changes, because the way the AI respond most times is not the way you respond naturally in your own environment. The way we were taught English and the way we communicate in Nigeria is different from the way people in France or people in the US or the UK would communicate and even write, right? Okay, so the AI would probably not give you exactly the same pattern as you would write. So there are some tools we'll talk about later that you can use to make it more fluent or more standard, depending on your use case. And of course, you can also read yourself, analyze the content yourself, and think about the way you talk to someone else. If you really want to talk to me, right? Will you come to me and say, oh, map. So you see, in a world where there is A and B and C, come on, that's an AI thing. That's not like an actual thing, in Nigeria, in Lagos, for example. So if you're selling to people in Lagos, sound like you're selling to people in Lagos. Don't tell someone in Ajegule in a world where there is, abundant opportunities. Don't do that, okay? That's, that's not good. All right, so we have this task, for example, create an engaging social media post promoting our latest product launch, and then look at the context. The product is a new line of eco-friendly skincare products targeting environmentally conscious customers. That is the context. Now, the input data, description. Okay, yeah, so this is the part where you probably want to include the description of the product, right? The features, the benefit. Now, that is the input data from you, if you have it, okay, which you should. I believe you should have it. So the name of the product, right, the features, the benefits, of, these things. The AI cannot generate these things. It's your product, right? If you have those input data, include it. It makes your output way better, okay? Now the output indicator, we're asking, produce a visually appealing post with persuasive copy highlighting the product's sustainability and benefits. Now, if you actually have a writer that you love, maybe like a digital marketer like Neil Patel or Seth Godin, you can actually ask to write in the style of that person. Now, that's a very old pattern when it comes to prompt engineering, but it works. It works perfectly, right? So if you have the input data, put that input data here. I'm going to leave it this way. I don't have any input data, and I don't want us to waste too much time. But then you can also include write in the style of Seth Gordon. I don't know if there's R there because I keep mistaking that for Gordon Ramsay. Let's confirm. I think I probably removed that already, but I did. Okay, so let me just remove the R for now. So if I include this, it's going to write in the style of Seth Godin. You can even ask it to write in the style of Michael Jackson, right? So it depends on what you're trying to do, but that persona, makes it interesting. Write in the style of Shakespeare, right? Depending on who you're targeting and what you want them to see. If you are writing maybe something for like a Valentine post, or maybe like you're selling a package during Valentine period, yeah, you probably want to write, in the style of a romantic novel writer, those kind of stuff. But I'm just, giving that example. So you see, now it is writing based on, the based on the details we've asked it to write. Okay. So also remember, if you're targeting some kind of audience, you probably don't want to include too many emojis, right? It works for some audience, but it doesn't work for some other audience. If this is going to LinkedIn, you don't want, you want to include some emojis, but don't make it too much so it doesn't look childish. Okay. Um, yeah. So why this? Okay, it is made with sustainability, source ingredients, blah blah blah. All right. So you see, it's keeping it short, and then you can also include maybe like the channel, right? So create an engaging social media post. That is the reason why it's short. Social media post, right? It's not a blog post. If I change this to blog post, it's going to be longer. Okay, and we can say social media post for Instagram or social media post for Facebook or social media posts for LinkedIn, right? So it depends on where you are selling this, okay? You probably don't want to do skincare products on LinkedIn, but yeah, now it's giving us the style of LinkedIn. This is how you write on LinkedIn. Exciting news, that hook, okay? And yes, we also have a course, coming up for, developing, nice hooks with AI. I would show you some examples here, right? But AI would not give you the best hooks. And I'm saying this because except you put in, this kind of context, like, your environment, your target audience and stuff like that. AI would give you some things that when people read it, they even become angry, okay? If you don't prompt very well, right? So let's continue. The point is now you understand how important it is to, pass your instruction, add some context, put in some input data, and of course, specify the output indicator. Okay, so you see we have other examples. This is for audience engagement analysis, right? This is for competitor analysis. So I created some of these examples here: campaign performance evaluation, right? SEO strategy development, putting in those details, the instruction, the context, the input data, the output indicator. This makes it good. Now you must not arrange it with keys and values like this. You can simply ask the AI as well. So first create um, a sentence. Yeah, create a sentence a sentence-based prompt for this. Yeah, so let's just do that. So you probably yeah, you probably want it to just give you a sentence that doesn't look like this, but trust me, it is better to put it this way, right? So you see, it's the same thing. It's just embedding everything together. So craft a compelling LinkedIn post showcasing our latest product launch, a new line of eco-friendly skincare products. Highlight the sustainability features and benefits of the product to resonate with environmentally conscious consumers, right? So it is just structuring this whole thing into a single a single post or a single message. Okay, so not a big deal. I still prefer going this route. It's straight to the point, and it makes you more detailed when you are writing those stuff. Okay, types of prompts. Now, at least I'm sure you might have observed that I'm becoming too fast, right? Apologies, but yes, we have to move fast, okay, because of time. Okay, so types of prompts. Remember, you can go back to this video, you can reduce the pace, right? And if you have any questions while I'm explaining, raise your hand. Let me check the charts. I don't think I have any questions just yet. Do you have any questions before I continue? Okay, okay. Samuel, any questions? Hillary, Rita, any questions? All right, so I don't think we have
Yes,
any
I do.
questions.
No, no
Nice.
question. Okay.
All right, let's continue. So types of prompts. So prompts can be categorized into various types based on their purpose, the structure, and the intended outcome. And these prompt types would help us guide the language model or the tool to generate specific types of content or perform, specific tasks, right? So these are some common types of prompts. Um, I also included examples. So we have the instructional prompts where we say, create a step-by-step guide on optimizing Facebook ads for. Now, this is, of course, instructional. You want to learn from this, right? You want to learn from this. Trust me, this is how I've been learning a lot of things for the past, I mean, I started using a GPT Playground even before ChatGPT was released. This was, I think, 2022, if I'm not mistaken, 2021. I think, is it 2021, December or November? So I had a friend of mine that I just reached out to, friend of mine in Egypt, but then it was in Malaysia. So Malaysia already had access to GPT, right? 3 point, I think 3.5 turbo or 3.0, I can't remember. And then when I saw it online, I asked the guy, okay, this is my email, set this up for me, right? And I started experimenting with it before they released ChatGPT, and I knew that this tool was going to be an amazing tool, right, in the long run. So you see, I just dropped this post here, create a step-by-step guide on optimizing Facebook ads for maximum engagement and conversion. And it is doing that for us. It's telling us, okay, define your objectives, understand your audience, refine targeting options. It's telling us what to do, right? So we have a lot of data on the internet. A lot of people must have created materials, amazing materials, teaching how to do these things. So it is easy to just come to ChatGPT and say, teach me how to do this, right? Um, if this is going to be very complex for you, probably because you're not a full-blown digital marketer, right? You can also optimize the prompt and add more details to say, okay, I am a software engineer, not a digital marketer, but I need um, a step-by-step guide on how to optimize a Facebook ad for maximum engagement and conversion. Okay, so we use the buzzwords and explain like I am 10. Okay, so I'm adding this right now because, I mean, it depends. You know yourself, you know what you would understand. So it is trying to now explain this to you because you're a software engineer, not a digital marketer, and it's using simple terms. Okay, so set clear goals, know your audience, choose the right ad format, craft compelling ad copy, use eye-catching visuals. I mean, now this is straightforward, right? If you're not a digital marketer, you don't care about all those things it was mentioning, right? That's not our problem. We actually don't care. Okay. So we're trying to understand, how to do this in the real world. We're not trying to write some exams or something. Now, this makes sense. Okay. It's explaining it, in such a way that even if you're 10 years old and you're just getting started with something like this, you should be able to catch up and it gave you these things step by step. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Let's continue. So we have the completion prompt where you're asking it to actually write, like a caption, right? For your product, or you can also provide some materials and say, please complete this. Okay. Now you must not include place, right? You don't need to include place at all. So you are writing something, for example, let's say, um, let me give an example here. All right. So our product is an eco-friendly soap. I don't know. Does that make sense? Cream. Um, that that okay. Let's say eco-friendly hair cream that will give your hair the best, blah blah blah. Okay. So now we're saying we don't really know, right? So it is trying to give us more details. So this is completion, right? Trying to give us more details, telling us what makes it special, right? And then we can edit and make it better, right? We know what we're trying to communicate, to the customer, but we don't really know how to write it. So it has, done its best to give us that detail. We can also go ahead and, make it fit our brand, voice, and style. If we have a different style that we write with, but at least you have gotten the content. Okay, and if the content here doesn't fit, like this is saying, nourishes and strengthens hair from root to tip. If you know this is a lie, then of course you want to probably edit it. I mean, if you know it doesn't work for your brand, okay, everybody wants to put out the best, but at the same time, the fact that you have a tool that would make you come up with the best write-up does not mean you should lie about things that doesn't exist. So you can take off those things and then with the little ones you have, use that to your advantage. Okay. So question and answer prompts. What are the key metrics to tackle when analyzing the performance of an email marketing campaign? Provide explanations for each metric. Now, this is a question and answer prompt, plus you are asking for an additional explanation for each metric, right? This makes sense, straight to the point. You can make it more detailed, but this is good already, right? So the open rates, the click-through rates. So this is for people that are mostly into digital marketing, right? This is comparison prompts. You can actually compare, different things, right? So you can go through these examples. Scenario based. Now, this was very intentional. You probably will not find scenario based. I personally included this here because I think I learn a lot from scenarios, right? Most of us, probably all of us learn from scenarios, but we don't get to appreciate it enough. If you are getting into a particular business or company for the first time, and you are given a task, right? And they don't give you like a guideline on how to build or implement that task. That's a scenario that you most likely not be happy to work on because you know you don't get that step by step guide, right? But you have a scenario, right? So ChatGPT can actually help you if you know how to describe your scenario. You know that a lot of people don't actually know how to describe their scenario. You are doing something, you are creating maybe or you are asked to create a content for something. Okay. When your boss was actually asking you that question, she probably gave you a scenario. Now picture that particular scenario and ask the AI that scenario, right? So this is a scenario here. We say you are managing a social media account for a startup tech company, right? Develop a content calendar for the next month or for the next 6 months, considering product launches and industry events, in between. So it will pick up this, and you can add more. This is very simple, right? You're managing a social media account for a startup company, and your boss asked you to develop a content calendar for the next 2 months, considering product launches and industry events. Okay. um all right, so we can also add something here. What can we add? Let's see. What can we add? What can we add? Marvelous. Let's see. Okay. Let's just work with this for now. We'll get to something else in the future. All right. So you see, it is now generating that material for you with those information you passed in there. Okay. All right. I know I'm trying to be fast, but now you see, it actually stopped at week 4. Right. Let's see. Is this week 4, month 2? Okay. Yeah. Month 1 and month 2. So that was actually good. Demonstration prompts. They provide a detailed walkthrough of how to use, an Instagram Insight tool to analyze audience demographics and engagement metrics. Okay, so this would give you a response that is most likely trying to make it sound as if it's demonstrating something to you, right? So it's telling you what to do. Access Instagram Insights, right? Open the Instagram app on your mobile device. Navigate to the profile page, right? Tap on three, or I mean, this might not be correct depending on the recent updates on the app. Okay, but most likely 80% of the time it will be correct, right? Especially if the app, because I mean, apps will not just change everything overnight, right? It will probably take months, and these guys are updating and releasing new versions, almost every 2 or 3 months now. So I think almost every 2 months. Yeah. All right. So we have conversational prompts where you can pass in the user conversation, right? The user, the model, and it can then proceed to give you. So you see, we also included a completion prompt there. All right. So how can I increase organic? Okay. How can I increase organic reach on LinkedIn? Um, Engaging with industry related this. Here's the strategy. So yeah, that's conversational between you and the AI model, and it will proceed to give you the strategy because it knows that that is what you are asking of as a completion, right? Optimize your profile, publish high quality content, engage with industry content, right? Participate in LinkedIn groups, network and build relationships, blah blah blah. All right. We have a request for explanation or elaboration where you can ask a question and expect the AI tool to elaborate, right? So you're asking it to explain. You can say, explain like I'm five, explain like I'm 10, right? Yeah, yeah. So how it can be utilized to optimize website conversions. You can even add more details, right? You can say for customers or for website owners or business owners in the UK, right? You can add more details. Opinion or recommendation prompts. You see, we have opinion or recommendation prompts, translation or transcription prompts, quantitative analysis prompt. Please make sure you read through algorithm design. So, yeah, this is not exactly for digital marketing, but yeah. So when we say design an algorithm, right, it must not be code. Okay. So let's put it this way: design an algorithm to recommend personalized content. Now, for digital marketers, you probably want to say strategy, right? Um, I can just say strategy. Okay. So an algorithm is just like a step-by-step instruction. It's not really like code. So you see, it's giving us collect user data, right? Do this, build user profiles, analyze the content, content user mapping, right? Generate recommendations. So it is not really code. It is mostly giving us that step-by-step guideline. Okay. So there are a lot here. In fact, I included natural prompts, right? So you just write a casual based, blah, 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 rationale based prompts, which is, based on your rationale. So based on this is based on your rationale or the model's rationale. So based on market research data, what do you think? Now you're asking, for its own opinion, right? And to basically gather this opinion based on the data it can find, right? Or it can make up some things. We call it hallucination. It can hallucinate, and that is not very good. So, based on the market research data, what do you think is the most effective platform for researching for reaching Gen Z customers, right? Consumers, right? So, you're also giving it some options, right? Instagram or Snapchat. Provide your reasons for the choice. So, this is an interesting prompt. It will give you the response, and it will also give you its rationale why it feels like. Okay, so it is saying based on market research, Instagram is likely the most effective platform for reaching. Okay, here is why. So it gives you. This is interesting. I would like to know what about TikTok. Okay, so let's see what the response would look like there. Um, Determining the most effective platform, okay, whether this requires a nuanced understanding of the platform characteristics and preference. Like here's a breakdown. Okay, so now this response is a bit off, and I think it's probably because it does not have a lot of information about TikTok, or it's trying not to talk about TikTok a lot. What I would do most times, I would click on this refresh or regenerate. Um, Okay, so based on market research, this is TikTok is likely the most effective platform. So I was wondering why didn't it generate this initially, because I was expecting this. Yeah, I don't know why, but that looks weird. So yeah, so we have ration, and it gave you the reason. So If you don't agree with the reasons, at least you have some reasons to ponder on. Okay. So we have some awesome prompting technique I listed out here. Right now, this is I did not give examples here. It's very intentional because these are techniques I want to teach in my crash course that is coming up next month. Right. So if you love to learn some of these things, and these are probably the most important parts of becoming way better at prompt engineering, for digital marketing or whatever field you find yourself. Of course, there are explanations, so you can do some research. So we have, a few shot prompting where you're actually passing some few shots, right? So that the AI or the model can understand or get some context. We have actually covered some of these things, but in the crash course, I would go into detail, right? We call this COT prompting, chain of thoughts, right? Where the model will have to reason step by step when responding to a task, and it can even ask you questions and say, "Oh, what exactly is this or what is that?" And the response you provide would guide it to continue the conversation or generating the response of your initial question, right? So we have zero shots, chain of thoughts. We have self consistency, knowledge generation prompting, where you are using additional knowledge to provide. You're basically providing additional knowledge as part of the context, right? Um, yeah, so we have program aided language model. We have React. This is very popular. You are allowing your model to actually reason and perform some actions afterwards, right? But yeah, so I said more practical examples would be found in the Beta Copper crash course in March. Okay. All right. So this is the bonus I have for you here. Prompting using tree of thought pattern. Now, this is a very advanced pattern, and I intentionally wanted to give this to you. Let's see what this would look like. We're saying create an in-depth dialogue, right? Sometimes you probably ought to have a deep understanding, of a particular thing, but then you want to see, we most likely want to hear people's opinion, right? And this is a good way to actually generate or, you know, um, try to mock that kind of scenario, right? So look at this example. I created this example. I said create an in-depth dialogue format resembling a visual roundtable discussion where a retired HR consultant. It was very intentional when I say retired because that person should have a lot of experience already, right? A retired HR consultant, a business owner, and a remote worker exchange detailed perspective on the future of remote work. Utilize the tree of thought pattern, which is marked in bold. That's the main thing there. The tree of thought pattern to showcase a nuanced conversation, allowing each participant to offer unique insights, concerns, and suggestions. Right. So everybody will not just agree, right? So I want to see, what are the possible, insights, the concerns, and the suggestions, given the fact that these people are coming from different areas, right? So they have unique perspectives. Ensure the dialogue reflects a thorough exploration of the topic, highlighting the potential impact of workforce dynamics, business operations, and individual experience in a remote work environment. Now, this should be structured in a tabular form, and the conversations should be arranged in columns. So this was very detailed in terms of crafting the prompt, right? I took my time to actually craft that prompt for you so that you can also get to learn how to use it and reuse it for your own examples. Now you see we're having a conversation between the retired HR consultant. You can read this, right? So as a retired HR consultant, I have observed a significant shift towards remote work in recent years. While it offers flexibility and autonomy for employees, it also presents challenges in terms of maintaining productivity and team cohesion. And the business owner said, okay, as a business owner, I have embraced remote work as a necessary adaptation to modern workforce trends. It allows for cost savings and office space. Now we have for the remote worker. If you look at this very well, you'll be telling yourself, wait, how can we make this a continued conversation? Now, just look at this simple hack. I'm going to say the response from one participant. I would say the participants should build should build or continue the conversation from that conversation based off the response of another participant. Okay. All right. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to even cover the tools. I have a list of tools I would have loved us to cover. So, fortunately, we can't do that. So, you see, um, Now, this is going, well, by the time you read through, you see when this person says, I agree, blah, 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 where is it? I agree with the concerns. This person now continues to say, absolutely, right? Preserving company culture is crucial, but I found that the remote work can actually enhance in some ways, blah, blah, blah. And this one is saying, I completely agree. Now, if you look at this conversation now, you would notice something. The retired HR consultant is, saying that why this is good, there are some problems, right? These guys refuse to agree, at least, especially this one, because he's a remote worker. So you thinking about this and reading through this conversation, I mean, that's not the end. It even had yeah, it's a continued conversation. If I did not use retired HRO consultant, if I had used an HRO personnel or something, it would have most likely agreed with these guys, right? Without, having an extensive, a detailed conversation. Okay. Because it is possible that maybe that person, I mean, sometimes it's also good to add the age, right? Add the persona, right? Add the persona and say, this one is called Mark, this one is called Marv, this one is called, Amaka or something. Add those persona and say this one is 55 years old, this one is 40 years old, and this one is like 22 years old, right? Those personnel would now give you a different perspective to the conversation, right? He's a Gen Z, obviously, right? And now you begin to see, a lot of things that would come up from here. You would read, trust me, this is going to be interesting. I use it a lot of the time to build up conversations, even for myself, just to read, even stories, right? I use it to build up stories. And recently that I just started, writing a couple of books for kids, myself. So some of the samples that I've written, I've come to see how this is very effective, right? Because you can now build up a very realistic dialogue, right? Using AI, and that conversation will be interesting for other children to also read, right? Um, and very detailed, very detailed. Okay, so you have characters having a conversation, you have the personnel of those characters, and you see that detailed conversation. You see that, you see this prompting style in action. Okay, so let me include this, right? I would include this in the main material here. So if you need, I think you can also take it down. So you see I have that main material right here. This was the bonus. Okay, so I can just include that here. All right, let's continue. Let's continue with our material. That was the bonus. So you see we have digital marketing contents here. So for example, a blog post, I created some examples for you, social media posts, email newsletters, infographics, video, write a video tutorial script demonstrating how to use blah, blah, blah. Okay. Podcast, writing case studies, writing ebooks. If you join the crash course, you get to learn more about how to even write full ebooks with AI. Yeah, you can write webinar scripts, right? And of course, interactive quizzes and assessments. Now, these are some of the tools I wanted us to cover. Unfortunately, we can't do that here. We can't do that today. It's already 10:09. These are amazing tools. So if you want us to have a different session to cover some of these tools and also show you how to even create user flows, site maps, and user journeys with AI, as well as using Google Gemini for YouTube video analysis, or using ChatGPT for creating tabular data. I've shown you some examples already, but yeah, I can as well make out time to have that session. So these are some other things we're going to be covering in the crash course. You know, having 10 practical examples for each prompting technique that I did not, dive into, creating a complete book with AI prompting, creating a complete digital marketing campaign process with, standard operating procedures as guidelines, and of course, giving you more AI prompting tips and tricks. Okay. So yeah, I had to rush through this and of course keep a lot of important things as well. But that is because I wanted us to utilize just 1 hour for this session. I have a meeting right now I need to attend to. Thank you very much, and I hope you learned something from this. Um, if you have any questions, I think you can drop it on the WhatsApp group and I'll pick it up from there. So do well to go through this material, and that will be all for now. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much, Amaka. Please, you can stop the recording.
And thank you very much.
Yeah. All right.